gonna be really tough to talk about, and I hope that it is helpful for someone. This is not medical advice. This does not constitute a diagnosis. I am not on your medical team. I'm just somebody who is sharing her story through a really, really tough time. So let's start from the beginning. I have had eczema since I was 3 months old. I believe it was after getting a certain shot. I don't remember which one, but my parents said that it popped up shortly after I got one of those. And if you know, you know. I used to just get it on the inside of my arms, my elbows, and behind my knees. I never had it really other than that. It was kind of there, and that was it. I grew up eating like typical conventional diet and lifestyle, and typical kid in the 90s and the 2000s. I never really paid attention to it. I knew I always had eczema, but it wasn't like debilitating or anything like that. It was just kind of ugly. But fast forward to adulthood, it started to really regulate itself, and it really wasn't as crazy as it was like before. And but I would still use topical steroids and whatever the dermatologist recommended. I think around college, when I started partying and drinking more alcohol and staying up later, all the things that a lot of people do in their 20s, it started to really have an effect on my body, and I guess that was the time that I started to lean into topical steroids more frequently. It got to a point where I was really relying on heavier doses, but I didn't think anything of it. The dermatologist was right. Don't question the doctor. Yes, I'm making jokes, but to be honest, there's a time and place for conventional allopathic medicine. Like if you break your leg or you're in a car accident, or God forbid something like that really terrible happens, something acute, I'm all for it. All for conventional Western medicine. However, when it comes to chronic conditions, it's a little bit of a different approach. Anyways, fast forward to the year 2015, my health crashed overnight. Topical steroid withdrawal popped up on my eyelids, and my eyelids were so red. And I was like, what's going on? And they were so itchy. And within 30 days, it had spread all over my scalp, my face, my neck, my chest, my collarbone, my shoulders. It was insane. I was like, what the heck is happening? For the next maybe year, I was going to the dermatologist, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what to do. And it was debilitating. It was horrible. I had all the classic signs of topical steroid withdrawal: red skin, itchy skin, oozing skin, flaky skin. I couldn't sleep, insomnia. I had no appetite. I was losing so much hair, like clumps of hair was coming out. And it's like a deep bone itch that you feel. It's not like a regular, oh, I have a little itch. No, you want to scratch until you are feeling like you're scratching your bones. And I learned later that is because of damage to our nerves. Because corticosteroids, what I used were topical steroids. They would be absorbed by your skin, right? So then it would go into your bloodstream, and it would actually get into your body on a super deep level, causing really severe nerve damage. So I went to the dermatologist, and they were like, all they did was just give me prednisone bursts all the time. So it was prednisone. It's not their fault. That's how they were trained. That's what they know. And so that's just the way it is. And I think it was a friend of mine. She was just like, hey, why don't you go talk to my acupuncturist? And I'm like, what does acupuncture have anything to do with this? What? And so but I was desperate. I was in so much pain, and it was horrendous. Anyway, I ended up going to this acupuncturist, and he looks at me, and he was just like, oh, you have leaky gut. What? And I was like, what's leaky gut? What is that? And so I'm like, well, okay, great. What do we do? And he was like, oh, well, if you want to work with me, then, and he laid out like this plan, this program. And of course, that's another thing too, is functional medicine and alternative medicine is not recognized really here by insurance in the US. So you're paying out of pocket, and that gets expensive, right? If you know, you know. And eventually I was like, what is leaky gut? So I started researching leaky gut, and there wasn't a lot of information out there, but I ended up finding the autoimmune paleo diet, the AIP. So I was on AIP for 4 years. And then I ended up going completely holistic. Everything changed for me. I started living a non-toxic life. I cut out alcohol. I completely changed my diet. I cut out toxic relationships. I ended up leaving my toxic job. Researched more about, holistic living and natural living. I started to learn more about herbs and herbalism, and it was honestly life-changing. It was so life-changing. However, though, even though I was healing, I eventually plateaued. What I didn't understand when I reached that plateau was that I had to dig deeper, and I always hear people say, like, listen to your body. What is your body telling you? I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. I started to work with acupuncturists, functional medicine, chiropractors, health coaches, and I eventually started to heal in 2019. And I didn't know what topical steroid withdrawal was, and so I was healing. I'm like, thank God. So I ended up healing almost 100% in 2019. And then during the pandemic, a couple other things happened in life. And I always had a little bit of eczema. Like, I started getting a little spot on my finger, and I was like, oh, well, let me just put some cortisone cream on there. I'm not using a lot of it. What's the big deal? And so I slowly started using topical steroids again on one little spot on my finger, and eventually it spiraled. And in 2023, I ended up with topical steroid withdrawal again. And this time was a lot longer. I have some suspicions as to why it probably took me longer to heal. We all remember what happened in 2020 around the world and what was suggested or pushed, however you want to phrase that. Now there's a lot of studies and information coming out that there are repercussions. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But anyways, I ended up going through topical steroid withdrawal again from 2023 till mid 2025. So it was about 18 months of the most horrendous symptoms. Even the first time going through TSW, it wasn't that bad, but it was horrible. I was bedridden, I couldn't even go to the kitchen to get a drink of water without crying. I was in so much pain, and I would lay for hours in a bathtub because the water was the only thing that was calming my skin. I couldn't stop scratching and itching, and I would cry to my now husband all the time, and it was no way to live. I really lost my sense of identity, my sense of self. I couldn't work anymore, so I couldn't provide for our family anymore. I just really felt so lost, so defeated. I tried to go to dermatologists, even some really, really highly recognized and reputable dermatologists in Southern California, where I was living at the time, and all they did was tell me I had severe eczema, and it was really really defeating. You're trying to advocate for yourself and do the best for yourself, and hear these doctors who, fine, it's the way that they're trained, but they're gaslighting you, or gaslighting me, and they made me feel like it was my fault, and I was losing my mind. I was going crazy. Another thing that really helped me is I worked with 39 different doctors. So that ranged from allopathic to holistic medicine, acupuncturists, chiropractors, health coaches, functional medicine doctors, dermatologists, allergists, immunologists, gastroenterologists, you name it, I've worked with them. What finally ended up helping me was just working with the more natural, holistic approach. And that's just me. Like, I'm not telling you what you should or should not do. I'm just saying what worked for me. I found a functional medicine doctor. I will actually include his website below. He's amazing. He's out of San Diego, California, but I believe he works telehealth, so he can work anywhere. So I will link that below. I found out that I had candida. I had leaky gut, candida, yeast overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, parasites. It was linking to all these other random symptoms that I couldn't figure out that were no longer TSW related, but were still causing like rashes and eczema on my skin. And another thing I want to talk about is, I know insurance is great. Medical insurance is very helpful. It's there for a reason, but I understand that you reach a point where it's just not suitable for you anymore and you have to go a different holistic route. And that's what I did. Yes, it's expensive. You're paying out of pocket, but the way I see it, you either pay now or you pay later. Either way, you're paying somebody, because you're either paying, you know, the conventional side for insurance, pharmaceutical drugs, potentially other side effects that come with whatever drug you've been prescribed or you're using, or you end up paying out of pocket more to work with a functional medicine doctor, to run some of those tests, to get the supplements, to get the healthy food. And yes, it does add up, but it's almost like, what are you willing to compromise with, right? Are you willing to pay now or are you willing to pay later? Because either way, you got to pay in some way, shape, or form. I understand how frustrating it can be to navigate through all this, and especially when you're feeling sick. I've been there. I'm still doing it. You guys can see like my symptoms on my skin and my face and everything. I'm not trying to hide anything from you, even though it's hard for me to come on here and talk about this. It's embarrassing. So fast forward to where I am now. I'm still dealing with some symptoms. I still have some residual, like, eczema and just some spots on my body, but that, it's not going to heal overnight. I am in my late 30s and I've had eczema my whole life since I was 3 months old. So I'm finally just addressing everything, and I'm doing it in a more holistic way. I completely changed my diet. I'm gluten, dairy, corn, soy, refined sugar, seed oil, and alcohol free. I cook most of my meals at home. If you're interested, you can follow me on Instagram. Here's my handle, or I'll put it down in the link below. What are some of the things that can be causing me to have flares? Is it my laundry detergent? Is it my shampoo, conditioner, my hand soap, clothing? Like, I started to look into these different things that could be causing symptoms, and slowly over time, I started to change my life. I started to go non-toxic. I started to, as much as I could, right? It's hard to go 100%, but I started to eat organic, high quality meats, wild caught seafood, and I just changed my mindset. I cut people from my life, or I distanced myself from those relationships that were causing me pain and harm and sadness, and I started to set boundaries. And that's the way it is. And it's sad. I mean, you have to pick and choose what's best for you along the way, but it's all part of holistic healing. So with that being said, I'm more than happy to share more of my story. If you have questions or comments, leave them down below. I would love to interact with y'all. And you can also reach out to me on Instagram if that's more your jam. I do post more recipes and other content there, and I will be posting more stuff here on YouTube. But for now, if you want to just connect with me, then reach out via Instagram, or you can drop a comment down below here. And if you're somebody who's going through topical steroid withdrawal, or you are maybe a caretaker, or somebody who's going through TSW, you're not alone. There are unfortunately, thousands of people going through this. And, the caretakers are also, we would not be able to make it through without you. I would not have been able to make it through without my husband and my family, and really, really great friends who sometimes they just listen to me cry. And sometimes they'd come and go for a walk with me if I can only make it maybe 100 yards up the street or just a block, or sometimes they would bring me food when I couldn't cook. And there really are a lot of people out there who want to help and who understand what you're going through, and they want to learn more. And so that's what I hope that this video can do for somebody else if you feel like there are no other resources. I didn't know where to turn when I was going through TSW. I was very lost the first time especially, and I reached out to my community. With that being said, I am sending you so much love, especially if you're somebody who's suffering with chronic illness. I'm here for you. Let's get through this together. With that, I hope that this was helpful for somebody. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. And I really am an open book about this. This is a new territory for me, navigating this on YouTube and putting all the most intimate details of my life and my health online, but if it helps even one person, then it's worth it. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to my story, my journey with TSW. I'll see you guys in the next video.